Good day, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. We're delighted to have you with us. Today's webinar is Faster Return on Investment with ALM Through Education. Next. Today's webinar brought to you by HP. Next. I'm happy to be with you today, folks. I'm hosting today's webinar. My name is Mark Herbert. I am a member of Vivid on the board of directors. My role is the education chair. I'm also the lead of our special interest group around HP software education, and I'm also a local chapter leader here in Arizona. And I've also, as it turns out in this particular case, been close to the HP software quality line of products for many years, ALM, Quality Center, UFT and QTP, and going back to Test Director and WinRunner way back when. So this is a especially interesting topic related to both how we can make our investment in those products even better with education and HP Art. Next. And we're delighted to have with us today our presenters. We have Susan Merriman, and Susan is the worldwide lead of emerging technologies with HP Software Education. And she has worked in education and training for almost 20 years. She's highly respected in her field. She has a strong track record in product development, helping companies get the most from their people through inspirational training programs, and leads HP Software's worldwide team that's focused on emerging technologies for education. And also with us is Michael Cooper, from HP Software. He is the quality assurance and testing evangelist and is a leader in the fields of QA and software testing and process improvement. And Michael recently joined the HP Software Applications team, and he brings with him 15 years of hands-on QA and testing leadership. So we're delighted and honored to have Susan and Michael with us today, and we're looking forward to a great presentation. Next. Couple of real quick housekeeping items to go over first, folks, before we get started. This is a live session being recorded, and the recordings are available after the webinar for all Vivid members. There is Q&A later on in the presentation, so you'll be able to type your questions into the questions pane that is in your GoToWebinar doc there on the right-hand side of your screen. And actually, next we can see a little picture of that for those that aren't as familiar. You can you see there on your right the webinar control panel. You're able to have the little questions pane there below the options for the microphone and audio and such. And that's where you can type in your questions throughout the program, and we'll address as many of those as possible at the end, and certainly follow up after the fact for those that we might not be able to address in the time allotted. That being said, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Michael Cooper, and we'll get started. Michael?
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for the kind introduction, and it is an honor and a pleasure to be here. We're going to have a kind of a three-part presentation, if you will, following Mark's introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about why upgrade from Quality Center to ALM, and what are some of the benefits and the reasons to do that. And then, like Mark explained, I'm going to hand it over to Susan, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about how to get more ROI from educational opportunities and learning opportunities, and then we'll have the questions and answers. So I'm going to jump right into the why upgrade part of the presentation. And just like Mark, I had been using Test Director and Quality Center for many years, and I was leading before I joined HP about a year ago. I was leading quality assurance at T-Mobile USA, and I was a holdout, if you will, on Quality Center, and I was asking, I was constantly talking with the HP team, trying to figure out, what are the benefits, and once I understood it and really got it, I think it made me want to explain it more because because I was one of the last holdouts, if you will. But Quality Center, if you haven't used it, is, I think, the world's best and certainly the market-leading quality assurance and testing system, and works great for quality assurance teams or IT teams that are managing multiple releases and projects at once, but it is largely product and team focused. Whereas ALM really allows you to get involved with managing the entire application lifecycle, and we're going to get into the differences. Whether your organization is doing a COE or Center of Excellence, but if you have an organization that has many releases, many projects, there are a lot of benefits, and we're going to talk about that. One other note, because it's often asked, do we offer both an on-premise or in your IT shop versus a managed service or SaaS offering? And the answer is yes. We offer both on-premise and managed service, and we'll talk about that. In fact, there are several SaaS options. Okay, in terms of benefits, high level, of doing the upgrade, one is everybody wants to speed up their time to market. For example, in wireless, we're always trying to stay one step ahead of the competitors, or at least not too far behind, and ALM allows you to do that. We're going to talk through that. Lowering costs. And now, Quality Center is a wonderful tool, especially for teams. But if you're administering it for a very large team, it can, in some cases, get intensive. If let's say you're managing Quality Center implementation for 6,000 users, as we were at T-Mobile, it can get very, very costly to administer and manage it. And we're going to talk about ways that ALM helps you save application costs, not only with administration, but in several other ways, and achieve business alignment. I remember Mercury had a famous quote, or a slogan called BTO, or Business Technology Optimization. And it's really all about aligning the business needs with your IT team. And ALM allows you to do that, first of all, by having the ability to manage the entire application lifecycle, not just the testing part. Have that single pane of glass visibility. So, whether something comes from several different tools, be able to see it within one system, which is ALM. Increased decision-making support, flexible methodology, and we're going to talk about how you could do agile or different methodologies, waterfall, agile together, using ALM and some of our other tools, and being able to scale from one project up to enterprise projects, whether it's mobile projects, web projects, SAP or enterprise projects, that type of thing, and have complete traceability altogether. So, there's a huge ecosystem, if you will, that goes along with ALM, and we don't have time to focus on the whole thing, but I wanted to give you this kind of big picture to look at and kind of see where the biggest differences are between Quality Center and ALM. Now, Quality Center has your requirements or test requirements, your test lab, your test plan, and the ability to manage defects. Things that it doesn't have that we're going to drill into today a little bit are the project planning and tracking, which is only in ALM, the lab management, which is only in ALM or Performance Center, and the asset sharing and reuse, which allows also for the cross-project reporting. But this is kind of the big picture, and you'll have these slides to review at your leisure as well. I will mention Agile Manager, which a lot of people don't know about, but that is our tool for managing the Agile development lifecycle, and it synchronizes both with Agile, with ALM and Quality Center. Okay. Actually, let's see. Okay, there we go. So, shared customizations and asset sharing. One of the things that I really like about ALM, and this is coming from a guy who was a Quality Center administrator many years ago, is the ability to have project templates and to standardize your workflow, to have common fields and values across projects, but also allow teams to customize for their own projects. And it makes administrating Quality Center or ALM in this case a lot easier. And if you want to make one update, you can cascade those down to the different projects. Asset sharing and reuse is really super because there are a lot of test cases, there are a lot of requirements, there are a lot of even defects that can and should be shared across different products and projects within within ALM, and ALM allows you to do that. Whereas there are things you can do in Quality Center to make that happen, but it certainly is a lot easier in ALM and really is built for it. Okay. The other major feature that I wanted to mention is application lifecycle intelligence. Now, I think this is one of the biggest and best differences between Quality Center and ALM. It allows you to get down to the code level and really get upstream with understanding what's changing, what the developers are changing, what requirements are changing, and so forth, and get real-time traceability across all different technologies. Now, what does this look like? So this is an example of a build change report. So for example, it talks about what's changing in terms of the code, what requirements that impacts, what defects that makes ready to test, and so forth. And ALI plugs into the not only the development tools and allows the developers to work in Quality Center with ALI, but also the source management tools, the build systems, and gives you traceability all the way to your unit tests and code coverage, to your security testing, and really lets you understand your change impact and what's happening with the build. This is especially important if you're getting into continuous integration and DevOps and so forth. The next area that I think is really a big differentiation is the project planning and tracking. So you're able to, in ALM, and this is not in Quality Center, define and monitor project milestones. Some people call them quality gates. And you set, thresholds and so forth, and you can dynamically assess the health. So you can tell if a project is red, yellow, or green automatically, and compare kind of progress against the milestones, and embed status into other tools like dashboards, and really be able to drill down into your key performance indicators. And it helps you reinforce the principles of the testing maturity model, for example. And I also wanted to mention, and this is something that is really catching on as the idea of continuous integration is spreading and is not kind of a fringe thing, is becoming more commonplace. A lot of people realize that the test environments are not keeping up, that you really have to do automation of setting up the test labs, whether that's setting up the lab to run your tests, or even coordinating with tools like CDA and be able to kick off and build test environments on the fly and then run your build verification tests. And lab management automation allows you to do a lot of that and even provision environments. And more and more customers are going in that direction and then running build integration tests and so forth. Okay. We also work with continuous integration support such as open source tools like Jenkins, and this is actually an open source plugin. This one happens to work with Quality Center and ALM, but really gets you in that direction of DevOps. Now, I went through that kind of quickly because I really want to get into the part about the education. But the bottom line is the reason to upgrade is all about the business. As I mentioned, the business technology optimization or alignment. And we engage with an analyst group called the Gantry Group, and they talked to a lot of customers in different industries that went through this upgrade. And what they found was it ended up reducing budgets in the long run. Another difference that I didn't highlight is it helped with high availability. So with ALM comes the high availability servers, whereas with Quality Center, that's an upgrade. Because of the asset sharing and so forth, lower support expenses, reduced patch and maintenance and so forth, and really helped in a lot of different ways. Obviously, the project planning and tracking with the project management expenses, reduce administration and custom workflows because you have those templates and asset sharing, and reduce software testing expense and duplicate work and so forth, and reduce development partner expense. So the other thing is the intangible value drivers. Companies have found that by upgrading to ALM, they were able to improve their time to market, improve customer satisfaction, reduce post-production defects, and so forth. So these are some of the key things that the Gantry Group found when they interviewed several of our customers after the ALM upgrade. In terms of connecting IT to the business, it is all about creating a partnership and really understanding what IT can do for the business. And these days, if IT doesn't deliver, a lot of times the business will go elsewhere. So it's really important to have that partnership. And it's important to have dependable service quality and customer satisfaction within the teams. One of the things that I found in upgrading to ALM, and a lot of customers tell me, is they've really got a tighter relationship across the organization with the PMO, with the development team, with the operations team, and you have to identify things that will help improve IT over time. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Susan to tell you more about how to kind of speed up these type of transformations and upgrades and migrations through the better adoption of processes and tools. Without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Susan. And Susan, do you have the baton there?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, Michael. And I wanted to just pick up really right where you left off and thank everyone for joining us today and talk about another aspect of the benefits that you can receive with using ALM and the new features that you described, Michael, and how we can ensure that we're really getting the most out of them and providing the most value to the business. As you mentioned, there is really the key concern as our customers are looking at using ALM. And so I want to talk a little bit about the adoption of the software, and that adoption of software, you know, we're focusing on ALM, but thinking about it, about all the software that you roll out, everything that's in your DevOps cycle. And so when you think about the investments that you're making in software, the IT investments as well as the human resource investments, we know that the ROI on that is directly related to the speed of adoption and the proficiency of your users. What you may not know is that poorly trained users require 6 times more support than professionally trained users. And studies show that in new rollouts, you often find a spike in internal support desk calls, which drives up your costs. And this is directly relatable to whether or not the workforce is enabled to use that new tool that is showing up at their desk. So you want to be proactive in how you address that by training your team prior to the rollout. We're going to talk a little bit about some ways you can do that. You also want to make sure that everyone's proficient. You know, in today's day and age, we're all looking to increase productivity and proficiency. And you don't want your users worrying about how to do basic tasks. You want them to spend their time on more critical tasks, on really accelerating the use of the advanced features. And we know through, again, studies that have been done, that users who have access to quick chunks of information, e-learning type content that's available to them online, they spend more time working on critical tasks, actually driving the business forward, than users who don't have that type of information at their fingertips. And then finally, who amongst us likes risk on our projects? We certainly all are looking for ways to decrease project risk. And we know that by focusing on enabling users and worrying about their adoption and making that part of our consideration for every project, we're going to see them making 50% fewer operational errors. And so that is a great way to reduce the risk for both your IT department, but also for the larger organization. And so all of these are reasons to focus on increasing user adoption. So let's start talking about how we can help you to do that. And when we think about users, we know that over the past few years, the workforce has really changed, and the pace of the IT world has changed dramatically. So as things have sped up, we as a people have started to really become more accustomed to on-demand and things in small amounts. And so we expect for information to be available to us anytime, anywhere, and in very digestible, small bits of information that we can retrieve and use in the way that address our way of learning. and our way of accessing information. And by having this, it allows us to be productive in our everyday jobs, but it also allows us to take advantage of new processes to cover for our colleagues when they're not there, and really get the most out of some of the new features of the software that is also changing very rapidly. So new features are coming out all the time, and we want to make sure that our users can take advantage of all those great new features that are available. And so at HP, we recognize that in order to take advantage of that, to really get the business outcomes that you're looking for, it takes more than great software. It really takes empowering the users that are driving that software. And so in order to address that, we introduced the HP Adoption Readiness Tool. And this is a tool that allows you to improve software adoption and reduce project risk. And it does that through enabling you to easily provision documentation, training, and performance support to your user community. And we call it ART for short. And with ART, you can really increase the productivity of your workforce, both for those who are using the HP software tools like ALM, but also by considering ART an essential part of your entire DevOps process and using it to enable the users of all the software that you're deploying out to your user community. But don't take my word for it. I think it's always much more impactful to hear how customers are using tools, because that can really light up some ideas for you on how you could take advantage of some of the opportunities that are out there. So Open Grid Europe is one of our customers, and they had a situation where they were upgrading to ALM, and they wanted to be able to provide enablement and support to both their new users who hadn't touched any type of Quality Center or ALM before, but also to their existing users who were familiar with Quality Center, maybe like Michael, but didn't really know how to take advantage of the new things that were in ALM, the more advanced functionality there. What they wanted to do was have an online interactive handbook that users could access from any ALM screen, rather than having enablement be a separate process or a separate task. They really wanted it to be a part of the day-to-day experience and make it interactive and have it be available to users right at their fingertips anytime in very small pieces. And they also wanted to make sure that they took into account what would happen at the next upgrade. So to have really an automated upgrade capability when the next version or the next set of features became available. And they chose ART, and they chose ART to use both for its rapid content development and deployment capabilities, but also for the best practice content that's delivered through ART from our HP subject matter experts. And of course, the maintenance contract that provides them with the ongoing information was very important to them. So what did they get? What were their results of this? They found that they lowered the training time for new testers. They improved their testing quality and improved the delivery that they as the IT department were providing, the service they were providing to the business. They boosted their productivity within their testing environment, and they improved communications and information exchange across the IT department. And what they realized with this was that they were finding these benefits in enabling their users for the ALM rollout. They then went on and used this for the next software that they deployed out to their user base, which was an SAP rollout, and they found the same great results, the reduced calls coming into the help desk, the greater productivity. And it's now a tool that they use as part of their entire DevOps cycle whenever they're deploying new content or new features or new software out to their user base. So, giving you a little story to help you understand how one of our customers is making use of the Adoption Readiness Tool. But let's now talk a little bit more about what is it. So now you know what it can do, but a little bit more about what is it. We know from IDC research that 80% of IT managers recognize that training and enabling their users is critical to the success of a project, but that traditional forms of training material, documentation material, performance support material are very time-consuming and expensive to create and also hard to keep up to date. And then also a lot of material gets created and never gets used. Or people come to a classroom, they learn something, and 2 days later they've forgotten 80% of what they learned in that classroom. And so we wanted to address this from a different way. And so what ART does is it makes it very interactive and online. And it allows learners to choose the way they're going to learn, whether they want to look at a document, a business process document, to understand what does the software do, or whether they want to see a video, or whether actually do a practice situation where they're getting hands-on in a simulated environment, learning to use the actual new features, but not having any risk because they're trying it in this simulation experience. And also the ability to test users and understand what is the competency level of our workforce before we flip the switch to go live. So it really allows you to address the way people want to absorb information and meet all those various needs that you have throughout the project. ART is really a combination of two critical elements. One is our content that we've built around our HP software. In this case, I'm showing you some Service Manager content. I'm going to go out in a minute and actually show you the application lifecycle management content. But basically what happens is that at HP, we bring together our subject matter experts and our instructional designers, and we devote thousands of hours to creating this content around our IT management software products, so that you have that content ready to go right out of the box on day one of your implementation and can understand the best practices that we deliver within the software, the features of the software, and all the way down to the details of how to do every task and process within the software. And then you can take that content and use it throughout your project for working with your stakeholders. And then you can take it and you can customize it using the Adoption Readiness Tool Author, which we use to build it. And then you can customize that content to reflect the way that you're going to be deploying ALM out into your user base. And you can change the look and feel of it to your logo. You can change it to your processes and to your guidelines and your policies, so that when you put this in front of your end user population, whether that be your testers or your business analysts, they're seeing exactly how you want them to use the software, which is layering your way of doing things on top of the HP software expertise that's already built into the product. Then you can take the authoring tool and go out and build your own content around whatever other applications that you're going to be deploying out. And you can use the authoring tool to start doing that development on content for your applications very early on in the project lifecycle, really embedding it into your development lifecycle. So you can create documentation right as you're beginning your process of defining what a process is going to look like. And then you have that ready very early on in order to be able to share that with the stakeholders, with your testers, with your key users, with your documentation team, with your auditors. And all of that then becomes very consistent and really breaks down the silos that you may have that are out there and allows you to really increase your chance of success. And then it's ready to roll out to your end users. And also your help desk can use it in supporting people as they have questions with the tool. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit now of the ALM content from HP ART, and also show you very quickly how you could modify that to reflect how you are using ALM. And then we'll come back for a few more slides and then very quickly open things up for questions here. And I did want to mention that ART is a global tool, and that means that we support 33 languages, and it's also a mobile tool so that this can be accessed, let's say, if someone wants to learn about ALM on their iPad as they're taking the tube home from work. Very mobile and very accessible to all different types of use. So what you're seeing here now is the HP ART content for ALM. And you can see that we have all the different modules covered, starting with an introduction module that's going to give a very good overview of what does the ALM content have to offer here. And so what you'll see is this is a very e-learning type experience where the user's coming in, they're understanding what am I going to do in here. They're learning some about the benefits of the product, and then they're starting to see what does the workflow look like? What are the different pieces? A little bit of detail on each piece, and then how does that all fit together? All of our courses allow for users to come in and move around, not necessarily in a linear fashion. They can jump around and say, you know, what is the hierarchy in there, and really understand how pieces fit together. We have downloads available. If there are any resources or PDFs that you want to include, we deliver some with our courses, and you can always add more in there. And each of these modules is going to be located here on what we call the Learning and Performance Support Portal. And so the user can come in here and they can say, let's go in and take a look, for example, at cross-project reporting, one of the ones that Michael was mentioning. The user can come in and they can say, I want to learn all about cross-project reporting and launch this module. Or they can go in and say, you know, I really just want to learn how to create a filter for duplicate defects. I know this is a new feature. I'm very excited about it. You know, my boss mentioned it in a meeting today. I can go in and launch a job aid, which is a very traditional PDF-style approach to looking at a process. And in the PDF, what I'll see is laid out very nicely, what does the screen look like, what am I going to do on that screen, and maybe some example information. A lot of people like this traditional form of documentation. Personally, if I was a user, I would be more apt to go in and say, I'd like to see a simulation of creating a filter for duplicate defects. And again, I have another choice. I can see a video of how it's done, or I can go in and try it myself. And in the try it mode, it gives me all the information that I need explaining what I'm going to be doing. But now I'm actually going to get involved. It's going to teach me as I go with specific guidance, but I'm going to engage and interact and really learn how to use the system and feel like I'm in it, but I'm in a very risk-free situation right now where I'm working within a simulation. So I think you can imagine that as you have contractors who come in to use your ALM system, and they're coming and going, perhaps very fluid in the workforce situation, having information like this available online to them would give you a way to ensure that they are proficient in using the software and that they understand how you want it to be used. Because what you're looking at here is our content, but you have the ability to add your own notes on here. You have your ability to put in your own steps and your own processes so that it really becomes an onboarding guide for contractors, new hires, service providers that allows you to really ensure consistency and quick ability to make people effective and productive as they're joining your team. You can use this also to assess your contractors if you want to see how they're doing. So within all of our modules, all of these more robust course situations, you'll see that in addition to the things like how does this all fit together, as well as the how do I do certain things, you also have within each of these an assessment feature, and that is going to allow you to assess the users on whether they actually know how to use it. And so then you would have the ability to receive reports on this through your learning management system and understand whether people who are coming in to join your team or from different departments are really ready to use the software. And so you, I hope, are starting to imagine how all of this can be used to make your ALM product much more successful as you start to deploy it within your organization. And then also broadening your mind to say, how could I use a tool like this as part of my application lifecycle for every application that I'm rolling out to my users by creating the content myself? So I'm going to take just a moment here and show you how would I take the content that HP provides to me and customize that to reflect how we're using ALM, or in the same sense, create content from scratch from another application that I might be deploying. So what I'm doing now is showing you the authoring tool and the source content. So I've opened up the source content for what we looked at here with the delivered ALM content from HP. And I have the ability to change this in any way that I want to. So I might need to add a note here that says, this new process is utilized by business analysts in Department A only in February. And then I can decide that that note is going to be very important. I want to make sure that everyone sees that when they're going through this simulation. And I want to make sure that it shows in the document as well as in the simulation. And I'm going to also include it in the test. I have a great deal of flexibility with all of this content, how it looks, how it behaves. All of those are completely under my control. I also have the ability to add additional steps in. So maybe HP delivers a process, and our best practice is that you complete it in 14 steps, and we have that all outlined here for you. But in your process, if after step 11 and before step 12, you actually have your users go out and send a note using Outlook telling someone that the project is on track. And so what you can do is record those steps using the ART recorder, and then that's going to make it a part of the content. You just take the recording tool and you place it on top of your desired target application, and you turn it on, and then you go ahead and start working in whatever the target application is. So I'm going to go ahead in here and just do a few things, and it's going to record each step that I do along the way. And it's going to create that into new content information for me. And when I'm done with that, it's going to build it into the content for us. And then we have the ability to publish out that content into all different formats. And this is something I wanted to make sure that you understand, that ART is a single source, multiple output technology that allows us to say, we want to create job aids or data sheets or business process documents for our auditing team. We want to create simulations. We can even create test scripts that can be uploaded into Quality Center. So a lot of ways that ART and ALM work very well together to really enhance your overall experience with application lifecycle management. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and go back to our PowerPoint here and just wrap up, and then we'll start having some questions and see what other answers we can provide to you as you're considering how to make the most of ALM. So I wanted to also mention, because as Mark introduced, I do work within our education department, and we want to make sure that you know that we have a full continuum of training options that are out there for you. So we focus mainly today on how ART, our customizable simulation-based training, can help you be successful within your IT department and across your wider user base. But we also have training that's available for your team who's going to be implementing ALM, and we provide that in a whole number of ways. So if you'd like for us to come on site and provide a training experience for you that's really unique to how you're going to, how your team wants to ask questions and work together, we can also provide the ability to have a virtual class, and we have classes that are public at various locations with other customers so that you can brainstorm with them and really learn from one another. And then, of course, we have web-based courses as well. So a lot of ways that we can make sure that your project team knows exactly how to set up ALM to get the most out of it for how you want to use it, and then also how we can make sure that your users adopt the software and are productive in using the HP software as well as other software that you're providing out to your users. And we have some links here for learning more that are available for you. These links are a combination of places you can find out more about ALM as well as about art and about education. Michael and I both participate in our blogs here, and we would be happy for you to follow us there on Twitter as well as our blogs. We have the Discover Performance blogs as well as the IT Experts community. We also have made available for you a free trial of the art content for ALM. As you saw, we have about 20 modules of content around ALM, and this sample trial allows you to access a couple of those modules so you can get your hands on it and start playing with some of the great features that are available in ALM. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark to take our questions and answers.
Thank you, Susan. Great job, guys, really. And as timing would have it, before I start reading the questions, here at Dignity Health, we're going through this exercise right now. We're in the process of preparing for upgrading to ALM 11. And in fact, as we speak, one of your trainers is here working with the team that I'm a member of, showing us the ins and outs of the Adoption Readiness Tool. We have the ALM content, and we're also in the process of building some of our own specific content so that it's unique to our environment. So this is very timely, and maybe in the weeks ahead or months ahead we could be a point of lessons learned and that kind of thing for you guys. So there you go.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay, so we do have some questions here, folks. The first one is, how do I convince upper management of the value in art?
Well, I'm happy to take that. And interestingly enough, we did a webinar here with Vivid a couple months ago where we had Cushing Anderson, a performance expert from IDC, with us, and we asked some polling questions, and one of them was, how important do you think user adoption is with rolling out a new software, and how important do you think your management thinks it is? And so we were pleased to see that both of those were very high, but sometimes it is a challenge when you're a project director and you recognize the need to invest in user adoption and in enablement and in documentation and performance support. But that's often, at the bottom of the list and easy to cross off for upper management as budgets are tight. And I think what's really important is to help your management understand the impact that you can have on the ROI by focusing a small amount of money on user adoption in comparison to the overall investment. And I think the best way to do that is really with numbers rather than with, benefit statements. And so we have an ROI calculator that our education solution consultants can walk you through. So we have the ways to get in touch with us here, and we have education solution consultants, and they can sit with you and plug in your numbers. How many users do you have? How many people are working your help desk? What's the the average length of time for a call? What are you trying to achieve with this implementation? And then you can actually provide them back with hard numbers of what that investment is going to drive for you in terms of increasing the value that you're able to provide. So I think that's the best way to do that. And a quicker, easier way, if you want to do it, in the next 5 minutes, is to provide them with some case studies that we have from some of our customers where they talk about the benefits and the value that they received by making that investment in their users.
Cool. Okay, we have some more here. The next one says, because we are an IT organization, the general vibe is that we don't need to be trained and that we'll just figure it out. Any hints on convincing people that this is really not true and that IT applications require training?
Well, Mark, I think you spoke to that yourself when you were talking about the fact that this is, an aspect of what you're looking at as you all roll out ALM, right? When we think about the user base for a tool like ALM, there are certainly very technical users, and then there are really people across all aspects of the spectrum. And I think what's important is that just because people are technically savvy and may not need so much help with, where do I click on the screen, that doesn't mean that they're going to automatically know what the features in the software are and that they could be taking advantage of them and how it could improve their usage of the tool and the outcomes that they drive. So I may be as smart as can be and as technically savvy as can be, but if someone hasn't spent a few minutes educating me about what are the capabilities of this software and how do I access these different features and how are we at my organization going to use those features and what are the different roles that are involved, I'm not going to be successful using the software. And so I think it's really important to look at it from that aspect rather than just the click here, click there aspect of training.
Yeah, Susan, would you mind if I added a little bit of personal experience to that answer?
Please do.
Sure. So when I was at T-Mobile, we had done a lot of customization to Quality Center, now ALM, and we get a lot of questions from, let's say, developers who were contractors that would say, okay, I got a defect assigned to me as new, how come I can't close it? So, we had put in some custom workflow that, said it had to go from new to fixed, fixed to ready to test, ready to, and we had our own workflow. And there are also role-based rules that only the defect triage team could do this, and so forth and so on. And I think every organization has some degree of that. And the fact that you can customize art, I think, makes a big difference. I wish I had this as I was rolling out different versions of QC or ALM over the years. I remember at one company doing an 11-city tour and, rolling out a process, and then, coming back and then just getting a lot of questions about how things worked, even though a lot of people had gone through our own training. If they had this to go through on their own, on their own pace, at their own attention level, I think it would have been even better. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really key point that you brought up there at the end is that we no longer think of education as a point-in-time event. Education needs to be ongoing, and enablement and performance support are really the ways of thinking about it now. You're not sitting someone down and filling their head with all the information they're going to need for the next year and then walking away. That's kind of the old school way of doing it. Now you're making this information that's relevant, that's targeted to them, that's very concise, available to them all the time. So it's there at their point of need, not at when it's convenient for you to put them in a class and train them on it. And that is what really allows them to be productive very quickly versus spending time trying to figure it out on their own or asking the person next to them.
Very good. There's a few more here. Is ALM integrated with Performance Center? Sounds like a Michael question.
Sure, I'll take that one. So the answer is yes, and in fact, it's built on the same foundation And there are a lot of actually shared features. So you can report defects directly from Performance Center into ALM. You can have a shared lab management for planning your test environments, whether they're for performance testing or functional testing or functional automated testing. So the answer is yes.
Okay. How can HP help customers transitioning to agile methodologies?
I'm happy to take that one. If you want to add on, Susan, feel free. So there are several ways, and a lot of customers are going to agile, and we have in the last couple of years rolled out a tool called HP Agile Manager, and it does synchronize with ALM and Quality Center. And in fact, we use it internally. I log in every day and look at my backlog and work on my tasks, and we have a Scrum meeting, a daily kind of a virtual stand-up. And because, like a lot of companies, we're an international team that is widely distributed, it allows us to work in an agile way. And Agile Manager is offered kind of as a cloud or SaaS service. You can get it, and there's even a free trial from either Pronq, P-R-O-N-Q, or agilemanager.com, and you can get the free trial there. And it has every agile feature that you can imagine, from your burn up, burn down, backlog, Kanban support, everything that you might want. And it's really a great intuitive design. It also has the ALI that I mentioned in ALM, so you have that same level of traceability and insight, whether you're using an agile methodology or not. So that would be the easy answer.
Very good, very good. Let's see, there was a couple more here. Are there different license level agreements with training/art? Is it possible to just purchase a few trainings, or is it a one-size-fits-all?
Actually, the art licensing model, of course, we'll want you to get into the specifics with your sales executive, but art is not a one-size-fits-all. It's designed to be very flexible around the size of your community and around what content packs you want. So you have the ability to really purchase just what is appropriate for your organization.
Okay, great. Is ALM available in the cloud or software as a service?
Yeah, I mentioned briefly, I think even on the first slide, that it is. There's actually several options there. There's an option in terms of software as a service with your own environment that's completely isolated and managed. There's an option with a shared version where only you can see your data, or your customers and users and so forth, but you're in a more of a shared environment. And then a lot of times companies will work with different system integrators or partners, and there are options that way too. So there are several options, and your HP rep can tell you more about that as well, and there's information on hp.com there too.
Okay, a couple more here. It seems like art is all about e-learning, but we have an instructor-led classroom culture here. Do you have any solutions for that?
Yes, actually, and that is not uncommon. And certainly in gathering everyone together into a classroom has a lot of great benefits, and one of those is certainly associated with the management of change that's required when introducing new processes and tools into your community. So although we do believe that the ability to provide ongoing online content to users whenever they need it is critical to success, we don't think that that has to be in place of bringing people together. And so one of the ways that some of our customers use art in an instructor-led environment is that they're able to eliminate the cost of having to create separate guides to use in the classroom, and also eliminate the cost of having a separate training database or environment. They bring people into the class. They use the art content to lead the class, the conceptual content, the workflows, the objectives and the roles. All of those are used by the instructor to lead the group through understanding the software's capabilities. And then the people in the classroom are using the Try Me simulations to do the activities using the examples that are in the content, and the instructor is there to guide them and to answer their questions. So it's really a way of bringing people in for the in-person experience, but still as an organization benefiting from having it in this online format. The users become comfortable with that content, with the simulations, with the modules, and when they go back to the classroom, they know, or back from the classroom, they know that that's going to be available at their fingertips, and it makes them much more confident in their ability to do the job. One of the interesting things that we know about users of software is that their confidence level and their competence level go hand in hand. So if I'm more confident about using the software, I'm going to be more likely to jump in and try new features, and then that makes me more competent, and then I become more confident. It's a stair-step level, and those two things together are what drives the greater productivity.
Great. One more here. This is more technical, but I'll ask it anyway. Is HP Agile Manager able to support more than one project? We have multiple projects / databases that would need to use them, or excuse me, use the features, but they would need to be siloed to them.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we'd have to look into that specific situation. There's a lot of information about Agile Manager online, but a project group could sign, or different project groups could sign up for ALM, and we have things split up by sprints, for example, and by releases. So there's a lot of flexibility and possibility, but we'd have to really dig into the specifics of the situation of the user. And if you send me the list of questions, we're happy to get back with not only that user but other users. And I know we're running a little bit over, but happy to get back to any questions that we haven't answered fully at this time.
All right, great. Well, thank you again, Susan and Michael. Yeah, as was just said, any questions we didn't get to address, folks, we'll definitely get that list out and get those all answered and included. I want to thank all of you for your participation today, and thank Susan and Michael for their presentation. It was great stuff. We encourage you to complete the short survey and opt in for more information from HP Software and also Vivid as well. In fact, for those of you that have not already done so, there is one of our special interest groups specifically related to HP Software Education, so be sure to check that one out. We'll have other webinars and such coming up in the future, and so definitely take a look the next time you're on the Vivid website. But again, thank you all for your participation. Thanks again to Susan and Michael and HP. Everyone have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.